So in this video, I'm going to show you the photo styles that will boost your matches on all dating apps by at least 72%. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dunham. I've been helping guys get more results, matches, dates from online dating since 2021. So I've seen all the types of pictures there is to do, and I've tested a lot of things myself. Now, before we get into this, the first thing you got to understand is simply the 3 buckets when it comes to pictures. And these are essentially going to categorize the pillar of leverage that your picture is going to showcase. So there's primarily going to be sex appeal, lifestyle, and comfort. And each picture needs to show at least 1 to 2 of these different buckets, because as we see here, sex appeal is going to be primarily arousal or looks. We all know that dating apps are visual, so you must spark some sort of arousal. And as we get into these pictures, you're going to notice that sex appeal is going to be a key factor here. And then number 2, we have lifestyle. This is essentially fun, but also indirectly showcases a degree of money and status. And then at the end here, we have comfort-based pictures, things that show you in a sense of familiarity or almost subconsciously provide some visual safety to her. And we're going to show you what that looks like too. So remember these 3 buckets right here. And as we go through these different picture styles, I'm going to be telling you what I believe, which bucket it fits into. All right. So up first, we have the night flash. Now, the night flash is a unique one because it can be done with your cell phone. It can be done with the digital camera. And because the lighting is based through the flash, it almost gives this like sort of paparazzi sort of look. Obviously, this is going to be primarily done at nighttime. As you see, I got some examples of myself here. So on this left right here, I was actually at a bar just sitting down. And then here I was on a balcony in a condo. And then this one, I was just simply at the beach. And so if we think about the pillars that are shown within this sort of picture, it's going to be a degree of sex appeal, which is essentially like a permanent point of leverage given my look, the style, the way that I, pose my face, the way that I pose my body, but also lifestyle. Usually these types of pictures will be taken when you're at dinner, when you're in a nice environment, or when you're just simply out. And usually when you're out, you're going to be dressed nice. And so we're hitting kind of 2 pillars here, the sex appeal and also the lifestyle aspect. And once again, this is so easy to implement. And especially if you do it like on a dinner or a restaurant, nice restaurant, because it almost gives the idea of what it will be like to actually be with you on a date itself and like her actually looking at you. So I love the night flash. If you're not using it, highly recommended. Will definitely increase your matches. Also, the flash just makes your skin look better. It just makes you look more attractive, All right, up next, we have pets. And you can probably guess what pillar this is hitting. And it's going to be primarily comfort. There's a reason why pet pictures and dog pictures do so well on dating apps, because we all know women are more emotional creatures. And with that being said, they're going to sort of have a soft spot for guys who showcase, a pet of some sort. I forgot the actual stats on this, but guys who post pictures of their pets the right way, which we're going to talk about how to do it the right way, receive a lot more matches. So if you do have a dog or even a cat, I highly recommend that you use it in the pictures, but you got to do it the right way. So as you see here, these aren't actually my dogs. These were a friend of mine, but I took the picture just to show an example. Primarily, you want to show some degree of dominance over the dog. So you walking the dog, keep in mind, when you're walking the dog, you also want to look good. Also, you can do yourself petting the dog, but I primarily would suggest that you do it candid. So we got some do's here. Candid walking, as you see here. Like they're not necessarily aware that the camera is there. They're almost just captured walking their dog. Also, you could do petting. But what we simply want to avoid is any selfies with the dog unless you have a top 10 out of 10 model to your face. Most of you guys watching this probably don't. So let's avoid selfies. Looking goofy like this guy right here, being too playful with the dog. And only having your dog. So meaning that you're not in the picture, you're just taking a picture of your dog. I've seen that quite a handful of times. You always want to be in the picture to show that that is your dog, but do it in the right way. Candid walking or petting. Look masculine and sexy as you're doing this, so that we can also add into the pillar of sex appeal in here too, alongside with comfort. That's like a double whammy. All right, up next, we're going to do GQ portrait, which is my absolute favorite by far. This is what I've learned to master. This is the primarily the style of picture that I usually take. Does well on Instagram, does well on dating apps. It's solid. So when I say portrait, notice here that the background is a little bit blurred. You're not going to get a huge degree of context of the background. And the focus is primarily going to be you yourself, your look, and how you're dressed. So this is very, very important in terms of accumulating sex appeal and really crafting our style into something that is attractive, but also having a fit body. So you can do this on a cell phone. iPhone, they have portrait mode, but for the most part, this is going to be done on a proper DSLR or mirrorless camera shot at 50 millimeters or higher. So you want a higher focal length. It's going to give more of that compression between you and the background, and also keep your proportions quite similar to how they are in real life. So you're not going to get any of that weird lens distortion, which is actually going to help make you more attractive. So if we're talking about pillars here, pillars are primarily going to be sex appeal. You could include a bit of lifestyle in there too, depending on where you're at and how you take the picture. But for the most part, it's going to be like sex appeal, style, and just the overall quality of the picture. Now, one thing that got sort of confused is that I'm not only recommending you to put GQ portraits on your dating profile or even your Instagram. Ideally, we want to combine all of these styles and sort of mix and match up to a point where we have a nice sort of curated presentation and profile. And yes, this might take some time. I don't think you can just do one photo shoot and get all these pictures in one. However, you can find the style that relates more to you, your personality, your vibe, or the points of leverage that you can personally showcase. Then from there, that's how you craft it. And by the way, if you do want help with this, I actually coach hundreds of guys on crafting their dating app profile, helping them identify their own personal points of leverage. So that way they not only get more matches, but actually convert those matches into dates. And if you want my personal help in achieving this, click the link down below. We'd love to set up a free game plan session with you to see how we can personally help you out. All right, moving on to number 4. And I know you guys saw this one coming. This one's going to be travels, scenes, and views. So the leverage here is going to be lifestyle and then also sex appeal. So with the lifestyle, with this picture, we're getting way more context of where you're at. So right here, this is where I was at a restaurant. Obviously, I am dressed nice, which is helping with the sex appeal, but also just the environment. Like it looks like, I'm at a waterfront sort of white tablecloth restaurant, which I was. So it makes it that much more unique. Also, we got this guy here. He's traveling in Dubai. I believe that's Dubai. And we're getting context of like the building. He's in an infinity pool with views. So you can also replicate this going to like rooftop lounges, anything to where there's a scene or something really iconic. But here's the point that you got to keep in mind, and that is we don't want to look like tourists. We need to look like we belong there. So most of you guys will go to these places wherever you travel and you take pictures looking like a tourist, like doing thumbs up, peace signs. Like if he approached this in a tourist way, he would have done the whole like hand on top, hand on bottom, that goofy shit. But we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it natural, keep it candid if you have to, if that's what makes it look natural for you. And also we have Mike Thurston here. It looks like he's maybe in a town in Greece or Italy somewhere. They're just walking, like casually strolling through, but we see the context of where he's at, and it frames him really, really nicely. Also, if we take a look at some of these composition rules, like he's placed in the left rule of thirds, and then the element is placed in the right rule of thirds, which also makes the composition and just the look of it much more visually appealing. And then Thurston here is centered frame with everything being framed around him, the environment. So when you are taking pictures, you do want to keep in mind composition, especially when you're doing these travel scenes and different view style pictures. All right, number 5 is what I call the effortless flex. So some guys may think flex means materialistic items and objects, though that could be the case. For example, if you have a nice car, get a pic of yourself like getting in the car, walking out of the car, walking by the car, something that like shows your access to scarce resources, but in a very effortless way. But also if you have a good physique, a good body, we could actually leverage this as long as it's in the right environment and context. So here, if we look at all these different guys, they're in environments to where it would make sense to be shirtless, and they're almost just captured in the moment doing their thing. So he's at like what's it called? Some sort of resort to where they probably have beach access or a pool, and he's just eating, boom, got a candid picture. Even though me and you both know he probably posed for this. This guy's playing pickleball, shirtless. And so women will look at this and wouldn't question like, oh, why is this guy like being shirtless and posing? Because what most guys do whenever they try to do shirtless stuff is that they'll take gym pictures, they'll be flexing, or a shirtless mirror picture. Yeah, sometimes that can work, but for the most part, we want to actually make it seem effortless, as if we're just captured in that moment, and it makes sense to be shirtless. So even going back up to the travel scenes and views, this guy's in a pool. Obviously, it makes sense to be shirtless. Even me right here, I was at a beach, and this is a little bit more posed than the other ones, but it still seemed effortless because that's naturally what I could have been doing in that very moment, putting on my sunglasses while I'm in that environment, right? So if you do have a great physique, if you do have access to scarce resources, you want to flex it, but like in an effortless way, to not look like a tryhard or look like you're trying to like really, really show off. Everything should look very subtle and very, very natural. Now, guys, if you actually implement these 5 photos, I promise you your matches are going to go up by at least 70%. Now, if you don't believe me, take a look at some of my clients here. One said he had a little business meeting himself with some fine shit, half German, half Turkish. First night, she looks good. I got another client here. He says he clapped cheeks last night off Bumble. He had to sort of play the waiting game, but she was consistent and she was showing high interest first. You see, the thing about these pictures is that we're actually trying to use it as bait to attract higher interest women into our dating funnel. And this is exactly what I teach. Also, we have our other client here, Austin and Felipe. I've said it many times, but man, I'm so grateful for y'all. This kind of feels surreal. Went from pretty much having no experience with girls until this past summer to now having this, which is an abundance of matches. So if you're serious about transforming your dating life and want personalized guidance to fast track your results, click the link down below to work with me one-on-one, where you'll get customized feedback along with a customized action plan so that we can fast track your personal progress to improve your dating life. Link will be down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.